Hello, it's week 11 of season 6 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is The Cannon. What's going on in the cannon? Warren comes into Dardershot and he tells Andy and Goulder and Floyd that he just got a call saying that the governor has accepted the invitation to take part in the Nadary Founders Day celebration. And he's going to send down the State Model Museum too. Andy says he saw that once up in Raleigh. It's got all kinds of things that date back to the founding of the country. So Andy calls a meeting of the Founders Day Committee for that afternoon to discuss music and decorations and such. And at the meeting, Aunt Bee says she'll take care of the luncheon reception. She's going to have shrimp cocktails and chicken a la king and ladyfingers and coffee. And Frank says he's got the parade all planned out. Yeah, he's thinking of the marching band first, followed by the squad car, and then the governor's car, and then a convertible with the Nadary Potato Queen riding in it, wearing a crown of potatoes and a bathing suit, and then Sam Etley on his motorcycle bringing up the rear. Floyd is going to decorate the town red, white, and blue, and Andy decides where he wants to put the sticker stand in the Model Museum. And John says the marching band isn't in great shape, but he'll try to get in some more rehearsals. And Andy tells Warren and Goober that they're in charge of guarding the Mobile Museum for the whole time that it's in town. Goober's going to be deputized for this purpose. And then the meeting adjourns. And then Andy and Warren are walking through town, checking out the preparations. And they come across the town cannon, and Warren says, "Hey, let's fire the cannon as part of the festivities." And Andy says, "No, this cannon probably hasn't been fired in over 100 years. Definitely not." And then the Model Museum comes into town, and Warren and Goulder go over to stand guard. And Warren takes the first shot, and he tells Goulder to come back in an hour. But Warren goes and looks at the cannon, and then at shift change, Goober goes over to where Warren is and looks at the cannon too. And then Andy comes and sees that the Mobile Museum is totally unguarded. And he sees two strangers in town, a man and a woman, walk up to it, and he has to go up and tell them that it's not open yet. And then Andy goes to the cannon, and he gripes at Warren and Goulder both for leaving their toast. And Warren tells Andy, "We're only 10 feet away. We're over here because something is stuck in the cannon. If we can get it out, we can fire the cannon." And Andy says no again. And that man and woman that Andy spoke to earlier had been watching the three of them arguing, and the audience sees them say to each other, "If this is the law in this town, this ought to be a pushover." So when Founders Day rolls around, Andy starts getting the parade lined up and everything else ready. He goes and tells Warren to keep the museum locked until all the speeches are over. And Andy leaves Warren. And then that man that we saw earlier is now dressed up like a state policeman, and he goes to Warren, and he tells him he's supposed to take over. He says they must have forgotten to send the authorization from Raleigh again. So he convinces Warren to turn the keys over to him and to leave. And Warren goes over and messes with the cannon some more. And then Goulder comes up, and Warren explains about the state police taking over, and he tells him there's a cannonball in the cannon. He says he bets it could still fire. And then the parade starts, and the governor arrives at the speaker's stand. And the governor meets everyone on the stand, including the potato queen, who hands him a potato. And while he's being introduced to the crowd, the phony state policeman signals to his lady accomplice in a station wagon, and then he unlocks and goes into the museum. And while the governor is thinking, the lady parks the station wagon next to the museum and starts loading it up with museum pieces that the guy hands her through a window. Meanwhile, Warren is holding a match up to the cannon, trying to see inside. And the cannon fires and hits the station wagon as they're making their getaway. And they all hear it at the speaker stand. And Andy goes over to see what's going on, and Warren and Goulder run up to the car and see all the stolen stuff in there. And Andy tells Warren and Goulder to arrest them quietly and take them over to City Hall. And then he goes back to the speaker stand, and he tells the governor and the crowd that that noise was a one-gun salute in the governor's honor. And the next day, Warren tries to justify to Andy his decision to give the keys to that crook, but Andy don't buy it. We'll see you next week for episode 12.